Hey people of YouTube, guess who read another book? Obviously I did, like that's literally why I'm here. Sadly I'm a little under the weather, I have a little bit of a cold, but I'm not letting it stop me. I am though drinking tea today instead of the usual wine, because I'm trying to stay healthy. But it's wine anyways, just out of a teacup. This past week I read this really fascinating book that was called The Mermaid and Mrs. Hancock. And I was like, ooh, the mermaid. Nah, there is no girl with seashells on her titties swimming around the ocean blue, bitch. This freaking mermaid shows up on Mr. Hancock's doorstep.
Dead as a fucking doornail.
It's just literally a gnarly, shriveled little piece of shit. That's the tale of the mermaid. Then we have Jonah Hancock. He is our protagonist, and he's just like sad. He's just like sad. But then this mermaid shows up and he puts it on display and starts to make all this money, and he's like, what do I do? Like, I'm not used to this privilege. So that's Jonah. And then we have my favorite character, Angelica Neal. So she's literally a whore. This book is set in 1785, because apparently, like, I'm also on this trend of reading historical fiction right now. So Angelica's a literal hoe.
She a freak in the sheets for Monty.
And I have a couple quotes that I'd like to share. The maid said, now run and let them in. Remember to wipe the saucers before you pass them around. Maria dusts like a slut. And then we never quite describe what a slut dusts like, but Maria dusts like one, so. And then, 2 pages later, we read, from the whoremistress, the abbess, I guess, who like owns basically all the hoes, says, I have trained you well, to Angelica, she says. You are no mere whore. And it's sad because Angelica, all she wants is to be a social climber. And to be a social climber at this time in London, you had to literally get carted around looking fancy, but then your job was to sleep with creepy men. And there was like a graphic part of this book in which they go to like a sex party, and there's like a full-on, like, everyone literally starts having sex at this party, but it's like all the really fancy people. So like that's what they did at the time, is they were just like, the higher class you were, the more just like atrociously you behaved, and like Angelica is the one who has to deal with that. Sad. So basically Angelica and Mr. Hancock meet up. She kind of like escorts him around the party, and then some crazy shit happens, and that is really it. Okay, and one last quote, because there's just so many quotes in this book that I just gasped at. So towards the end, Miss Abbess, the hoe owner, says, you know, so this man's talking to her, and he says the quality isn't what it once was, because the young ladies don't have any spirit in them. And I said, sir, you wonder why? It's because they're basically enslaved at your whim for you to do your dirty and put your little limp little peen in places it shouldn't be. Go home to your wife. Good day, sir. However, that's not what they talk about, because this was normal.
Gag me, you.
Anyways, she responds to him by saying, it's the fault of the gentleman. They demand good manners, refinement. And then she says, how would I sustain a cohort of screaming hell bitches if nobody'd ever pay me for them? He's expecting hell bitches. And you know what? He doesn't get to have hell bitches because he's paying for these women to do things that make them feel humiliated and disgusted. It's just really sad. So basically, The Mermaid and Mrs. Hancock, it's more of a tale of like obsession and class ranking and passion. Fact being, if you're looking for Little Mermaid 3 like I was, this book is not that. It was really interestingly written. Shocking. It's shocking. Graphic. I was not expecting so much porn. I didn't know this was like 50 Shades of Grey set in 1785 London with a mermaid. But it is. So if you want some 1785 soft core, occasionally like middle core porn, this book is the book for you. Honestly, like I wouldn't recommend it. Like I read it, she was thick, I got through it, didn't love it. Like least favorite I've done on here so far. One of the least favorites I've read this year. Maybe it's for you, wasn't for me. But the like sassy queen side of me did cackle at these quotes that I shared with you. So you're welcome for sharing those, because now you don't even need to read this hundreds of pages book. I gave you the good parts. That's it for this week. Stay tuned, because the next 2 weeks I'll be doing a spooky Halloween edition. I'm reading a couple Stephen King novels, and I'm gonna review them in time for the season. So, see you next week. Bye, bitches. Mwah.